Have you ever wondered what secrets the ancient Persian astronomers whispered under the stars? Tonight, let's travel back to a moonlit caravanserai, where scholars quietly mapped the heavens, while travelers rested under silk-draped arches. The gentle rustle of date palms and the scent of jasmine still linger in history's quiet corners. Close your eyes. Can you hear their voices, just faintly? The whisper of those ancient secrets carries you, softly, onto a cool stone pathway. It feels smooth beneath your bare feet now, as if you've simply stepped from one dream into another, right into the heart of a moonlit Persian garden. During daylight hours, this space hummed with activity, servants pruning rose bushes, viziers debating philosophy on shaded benches, cooks plucking herbs for the evening meal. But now, beneath a sky scattered with stars, the chahar bagh settles into its true purpose. 4 quadrants mirror the Persian vision of paradise. Earth divided by water channels representing the rivers of life. Oil lamps flicker along the waterways, their reflections wobbling like fallen constellations. You catch the sweetness of jasmine clinging to the night air, mixing with the mineral scent of water flowing over marble. Tall cypress trees stand sentinel, their needle-like leaves whispering secrets to the breeze. A nightingale calls from somewhere unseen, its song echoing against high garden walls draped in flowering vines. The geometry here serves more than beauty. Each gravel path angles precisely to catch moonlight. Each rectangular pool reflects a different star pattern. Gardeners planted aromatic herbs along walkways so footsteps would release soothing scents. Lavender by the sitting areas, mint near the reading alcoves. Historians found accounts of scholars who solved complex problems while pacing these very paths, letting the rhythm of their steps loosen tangled thoughts. One midnight in the 14th century, poet Hafez found himself unable to sleep. The garden's caretaker later reported seeing him trace figures in the dust of an empty fountain, whispering lines about nightingales and wine. By dawn, those scribbles became one of his most beloved ghazals. Centuries later, travelers still visit this spot, hoping the same muses might linger in the damp earth beneath the fig trees. Water moves everywhere here without rushing. Narrow channels feed into shallow basins designed to amplify the sound of falling droplets. Engineers angled the flows so the noise would never overwhelm conversation, but always mask intrusive sounds. A donkey's bray from the road, a barking dog in the distance. The main fountain's central spout plays a steady note like a constant musical tone, underlying all-night thoughts. Stone benches positioned beneath arbors still hold the day's warmth. Sitting here, you notice how the garden wraps around you. Flowering vines overhead, citrus trees to your left rustling with ripening fruit. A view of the celestial quadrant ahead, where water mirrors the moon. No matter where you look, the design invites your gaze to travel slowly, settling nowhere and everywhere at once. Moths circle the hanging lamps near the pomegranate trees. Their fluttering shadows dance across a low stone tablet carved with poetry. The verse speaks of night being the ink with which the garden writes itself anew each evening. A gardener once confessed he would often find snakes curled beneath these words, as if they too came to ponder its meaning. The night air carries hints of coolness now, promising rest. Somewhere beyond the garden walls, a single lute plays. Its melody mingles with the water sounds until you can't tell which notes come from the instrument and which from the fountain. In this moment, you understand why Persian healers prescribed moonlit garden walks for sleepless nobles. The harmony here seeps into bones, unraveling knots no physician could touch. As you rise from the bench, your hand brushes a spray of night-blooming roses. Their petals feel softer than daytime blossoms, velvety against your fingertips. Ahead, an arched gate leads outward, its iron filigree patterned after vines. Beyond it lies a path worn smooth by centuries of midnight wanderers like yourself. Dreamers who came to the garden with restless minds and left with the rhythm of water echoing in their chests. The moon casts long shadows across the ruins of Persepolis, transforming towering columns into slender silhouettes. By day, this was the ceremonial capital of the Achaemenid Empire, where kings received tribute from 23 nations. Now, in the blue darkness, you walk where ambassadors once stood, your footsteps echoing softly against marble worn smooth by centuries of wind. That same wind carries the scent of dry grasses from the surrounding plains, mingling with a faint metallic tang of ancient stone. To your left stands the Gate of All Nations, its colossal bull statues seeming to breathe in the dim light. Their stone eyes have watched countless processions pass, but tonight they guard only silence. The once vivid paint on their flanks faded long ago, leaving surfaces that drink moonlight rather than reflect it. You run a hand along the limestone blocks, feeling the precise gaps where craftsmen fitted them tight enough to require no mortar. The cool surface still holds unexpected warmth from the departed sun. Further ahead, the Ecbatana Palace's 100 columns rise like a petrified forest. During Nowruz celebrations, this hall held 10,000 guests beneath its cedar roof. Now the roof is gone, and the columns stretch upward into open sky. You sit on the remains of a stone platform where kings once presided, letting your fingers trace shallow carvings of lotus flowers. The designs appear perfectly crisp where moonlight hits, then disappear into shadow with your slightest movement. Night changes how you hear this place. By day, the ruins buzz with tourists and guides, their voices bouncing off hard surfaces. Now sounds soften. The skitter of a desert fox between fallen capitals, the flap of an owl's wings near the treasury walls. Lean closer to the stone stairs, and you might catch the phantom reverberation of countless sandaled feet climbing to present gifts. The very air seems to hum with memories of forgotten languages once spoken in these halls. Walking toward the tripolon, your toe catches on an uneven tile. Kneeling, you discover it's not a flaw, but intentional. A tiny carving of a lion's paw, barely visible in the weak light. This discovery makes you look closer at other stones, finding secret marks everywhere. Stonemason symbols, small Zoroastrian Favahar symbols hidden in corners, even children's doodles scratched into plaster. The night reveals these intimate traces that sunlight washes out. Near the Chahar Palace, a patch of original blue glaze clings to a wall. It's the only remnant of what archaeologists say was a ceiling depicting the night sky in lapis lazuli and gold stars. Running your palm over it, you can almost feel the craftsman's pride in embedding each fragment. Some believe the full ceiling showed constellations as they appeared during important royal coronations. The few remaining tiles still gleam faintly, holding their celestial memory through 3 millennia. From the hillside, the ruins slope downward in neat terraces. The moonlight etches clear lines between shadow and illumination, revealing the precise city planning beneath the decay. Sections glow softly, a stairway here, a doorway there, like fragments of a dream surfacing in sleep. You notice how Darius's architects angled entire buildings to catch first light at the spring equinox. Now those same angles funnel night breezes into cool streams that ripple your sleeves. Somewhere a nightjar begins its churring call, the sound vibrating strangely against flat stone surfaces. The acoustics here still carry clearly across distances, proof of engineers who understood how sound travels in dry air. Your breath catches imagining the last evening King Xerxes spent here, listening to songs bounce off these walls as torches flickered. The same physics that once projected royal pronouncements now amplify cricket songs into something profound. Small desert plants grow between cracks in the royal road. Their roots seek moisture from condensed night air, just as they did when this was a living capital. You pluck one fragrant leaf, perhaps a descendant of herbs court gardeners planted to scent the air. The spice on your fingers carries traces of cumin and something indefinable, like the ghost of long-gone perfume stalls. At the far end of the complex, moonlight strikes the famous lion bull relief at an angle that makes the figures seem to twist. The lion's jaws forever sink into the bull's flank, a symbol of solstices and celestial cycles. By day, it's a scholarly curiosity. By night, the struggle feels immediate, vast. You sit until your neck aches from looking up, until the constellation Leo appears directly above the carving in perfect alignment. The courtyard lies quiet now, emptied of the day's caravan traffic. Only one lamp still burns, casting wobbling light across a wooden table strewn with instruments. A scholar turns an astrolabe's brass plates, aligning constellations etched into metal with those overhead. His fingers leave smudges on the carefully polished surface, hours of work marked by tiny fingerprints. The lamplight catches the grooves of celestial calculations scratched into the table's edge, a permanent record of countless midnight observations. By day, this caravanserai brimmed with activity. Merchants haggled over silk rolls, cooks stirred massive pots of rice, grooms brushed dust from tired camels. Now, those same spaces hold only echoes, the faint leathery smell of packed saddles, indigo dye rubbed into courtyard stones from fabric inspections, a single forgotten date pit dropped by some hurrying traveller. The night transforms trading posts into makeshift observatories. While merchants sleep behind heavy wool curtains, scholars use the open courtyards as their viewing platforms. A soft scratching sound comes from the corner, where another figure sits cross-legged. His quill moves across parchment, inking coordinates for Jupiter's current position. The nib catches slightly on rough fibers, making each stroke whisper its progress. Beside him, an inkstone holds a small pool of black liquid scented with sandalwood oil to keep it from thickening in the dry air. He pauses to rub his neck, leaving a faint smudge behind his ear. The motions are methodical, practiced. This is his third night tracking the planet's retrograde motion. Astronomy and poetry grew together in Persian culture like twin vines. Many star charts included verse along their margins, comparing celestial movements to a lover's hesitations or the turning of fate's wheel. Some scholars believed the night sky itself was a form of divine calligraphy, with constellations spelling messages in slow arcs. The quill's steady tapping syncs with this idea, as if translating cosmic patterns into something earthly hands could comprehend. A clay teacup sits half empty near the astrolabe. Its owner left it to cool while adjusting an instrument, and now a thin skin forms on the surface. The tea smells of mint and something faintly medicinal, an herbal blend to keep the mind sharp without restless energy. Earlier, the caravanserais keeper brought a pot to share, his footsteps careful around scattered papers. They talked briefly about the comet last seen in winter, its position remembered differently by farmer and scholar. Such conversations often happened at these way stations, where knowledge travelled as steadily as trade goods. You descend past silent guard posts where torches burn low in their iron brackets. The last watchman before dawn sees your shape moving downhill, but doesn't challenge it. Night in Ecbatana has always welcomed comings and goings unseen. Messengers with coded words, lovers slipping through side gates, insomniac philosophers pacing empty courtyards. Your sandals scuff a patch of crushed mint where earlier feet released its scent. Beyond the lowest wall, the flute begins a new song, sweeter and sadder than before, as if apologizing for daybreak. The caravan settles for the night, camels folding their legs with soft grunts. Their saddle blankets still carry warmth from hours under the sun, mixing with the cool evening air. Around them, tent poles of polished walnut creak as indigo-dyed canopies stretch tight. These shelters travelled from weaving villages in the Pamir Mountains, their geometric patterns now glowing faintly with candlelight from inside. Bundles of trade goods form lumpy walls around each campsite, rolls of silk packed in cedar oil to repel moths, clay jars stoppered with beeswax holding spices from the Malabar coast. By daylight these were commodities to haggle over. Now they serve as backrests for tired travellers sharing cups of weak tea. The scent of cumin and cinnamon leaks from poorly sealed containers, blending with wood smoke and the musky odour of resting camels. A Kyrgyz herdsman hums while repairing a leather harness. The tune matches one a Sogdian merchant whistles while arranging his bedding nearby, some melody that jump between languages along the route. Both men pause when a baby fusses in the Uga family's tent, their heads turning instinctively toward the sound. Silk Road nights blurred such distinctions. Darkness made space for shared habits, the way parents everywhere rock restless children, the universal language of tired bones settling onto padded mats. Inside the largest tent, candles flicker behind thin paper screens painted with cranes. These were meant to be sold in Kashgar's markets, but make decent nightlights too. Shadows of the birds seem to move when wind touches the fabric, their elongated necks bending toward sleepers. A teenage caravan guard watches the shapes until his eyes grow heavy, imagining stories about magical birds that could fly the entire route in a single night. 20 paces away, the Persian tea master prepares his nighttime blend. He crushes dried chamomile flowers between his palms before adding them to the pot. His movements follow the same rhythm as the Tibetan monk counting prayer beads nearby, methodical, unhurried. Their rituals intersect when the monk accepts a steaming cup without breaking count. The tea smells of mountain herbs and just enough salt to replace what the day's sweat took. Children's voices murmur from a cluster of smaller tents. A Gujarati trader tells his sons a story about the sage who outsmarted a desert jinn. The plot borrows elements from 4 different cultures. Trickster rabbits from Indian folklore, the jinn from Arab tales, the canyon setting of Central Asian geography. The boys interrupt to ask why jinns live in rocks instead of lamps here, their questions fading into yawns. Their father improvises an answer involving local minerals as he tucks wool blankets around their shoulders. Night transforms the caravan sounds. Gone are the daytime shouts of camel drivers, the creak of overloaded carts. Now you hear the camels slow chewing, the snap of a fabric corner catching wind, someone's quiet sneeze that triggers 3 others in sympathetic response. Occasionally, a laugh rings out, perhaps at some joke crossing languages through gestures and persistence. The stars seem closer here than in cities, their light undisturbed by smoke or torches. An elderly merchant unwraps a cloth bundle containing his bedtime ritual, a worn copy of the Quran, a smooth stone from his hometown river, a miniature portrait of his late wife painted on ivory. He touches each object in sequence before placing them beside his pillow. The motions of worn grooves in the stone surface over 40 years of travel. Nights on the road required such anchors, small pieces of stability when nothing else stayed the same. The candle in the crane-painted tent gutters out. The sleeping guard rolls onto his side, his fingers brushing the felt rug beneath him. It came from a Mongolian yurt 2,000 miles back, traded for a string of Turkic glass beads. Such exchanges continued even at rest. An Uzbek woman offers saffron milk to the Tibetan monk, while the Persian shares cardamom pods with the Kyrgyz horseman. Gifts given freely at night carried no debts, needed no translators. 2 merchants play a silent game of chess using pieces carved from narwhal tusk. The board rests on a crate marked with faded Pahlavi script. Their moves follow patterns learned in different continents, but share the same careful consideration. When one player captures a knight, his opponent counters with a pawn. One rescued months ago from where it rolled beneath a Samarkand tavern table. The match will pause unfinished at dawn, the pieces wrapped in felt, until the next evening's game. Somewhere beyond the circle of tents, a lone camel bellows at the moon. Its companions ignore the noise, used to such outbursts. The sound carries across the flat desert, reaching another caravan camped 5 miles east. Others describe scholars wrapping themselves in blankets to doze briefly during cloud cover, trusting colleagues to wake them for important alignments. The scratch of quills continues throughout, documenting the night's work in neat columns of numbers and occasional sketches. Mars hangs near the moon tonight, its reddish glow distinct amid the fainter stars. The observing astronomer adjusts his brass astrolabe for the 100th time, checking the planet's position against last week's records. His stiff neck cracks when he tilts his head upward. The pain makes him wince, but he completes the measurement before rubbing the sore spot. Below him, the water clock, steady dripping, measures his progress. 23 drops per complete notation in their system. A younger scholar enters carrying fresh tea and a plate of honey-soaked nuts. He steps carefully around the star charts spread across the floor, his lantern swinging gently on its chain. The sweet scent briefly overpowers the usual odors of ink and stone. The astronomers take turns dunking the sticky morsels into their drinks, the sugar offering quick energy for the night's remaining hours. One laughs softly when another narrowly avoids dripping honey on a week's worth of observations. Sudden activity breaks the routine when a shout comes from the roof. A meteor streaks across the northern sky. Quills hover above parchment as everyone strains to see. The astronomers exchange quick, excited words, debating the fireball's path and brightness. One scrambles to find the meteor observation ledger, knocking over an inkwell in his haste. The spill creeps toward precious charts until someone throws a blanket over the dark puddle. For these few minutes, fatigue vanishes in the thrill of recording a rare event. By the time calm returns, the water clock's basin has filled noticeably higher. The astronomers resume their positions with quieter movements, the interruption's energy dissipating. One wraps his blanket tighter around his shoulders as the night's coldest hours approach. Another blows on his fingers before continuing to write, his script growing slightly less precise as weariness sets in. The youngest member of the group now struggles most, his nods of sleep coming more frequently, his chin dipping toward his chest until he jerks awake again. Their work continues this way until the first hints of dawn lighten the eastern horizon. The water clock's collector bowl nears overflow, its final few drops falling slower as the upper jar empties. The astronomers stretch stiff limbs and roll tense shoulders, their nightly vigil ending as it began, with methodical movements and quiet sounds. One last observation goes into the logbook. Mars positioned as predicted, with minor variance in declination. They'll analyze the numbers after resting. As they bank the brazier's coals and cover the instruments, the oldest astronomer pauses by a high window. He watches the water clock's last droplet cling stubbornly to the jar's rim before finally falling. Its impact sends concentric ripples across the full basin, disturbing the reflection of Venus fading in the morning sky. The sight makes him smile. Even their precise instruments couldn't outpace nature's rhythms entirely. He pulls the observation room's heavy door shut behind him, leaving the stars to fade undisturbed into day. The astronomers walk single file down the spiral stairs, each step releasing the scent of crushed rosemary from between the stones. Their lanterns paint moving circles of light on the walls, illuminating generations of graffiti where past observers marked their names. One trailing scholar runs fingers across these inscriptions as he passes, feeling the ridges left by colleagues long gone. The path out opens onto a courtyard, where early risers are already beginning their day. But for these night watchers, the next few hours belong to quiet rooms and well-earned sleep. The hammam's arched doorway exhales wisps of steam into the night air. By day, this bathhouse buzzed with neighbors catching up, merchants negotiating deals between soaks, and professional scrubbers plying their trade. Now the marble benches stand empty, except for one midnight bather stretched out near the warm wall, his breathing slow and even. Residual heat from the furnace below seeps up through hexagonal floor tiles, turning the space into a drowsy cocoon. Moonlight enters through star-shaped vents in the dome ceiling. The beams angle differently at night, slicing through lingering steam instead of battling sunlight. Their patterns shift gradually across the walls, uneven constellations moving as the hours pass. A forgotten copper bowl catches one of these streaks, reflecting it onto the ceiling in a wavering disk. The bather watches the light move across damp plaster shaped into floral designs, counting petals until his eyelids grow heavy. Nighttime protocol here differs from daytime bustle. Attendants stoke the fires just enough to maintain warmth without overheating sleeping bodies. Instead of vigorous scrubs, they offer gentle massages with lavender-infused oils. The usual buckets of shocking cold water sit unused, Night bathers prefer gradual cooling, letting their skin adjust while stretched on warm stone. Tonight's sole attendant shuffles between alcoves, tidying abandoned soap cakes and folding scattered towels into neat stacks. The bather inhales deeply as his muscles relax. The air holds traces of evening patrons, orange blossom soap from the wealthy quarter, sharp cedar from mountain traders, basic olive oil from laborers. These scents blend seamlessly now, layered over the hammam's permanent mineral tang from centuries of steaming stone. He runs fingers along the marble beneath him, feeling smooth dips where countless bodies have rested before. The stone holds its warmth stubbornly, responding slowly to cooler night air seeping through ventilation slits. Some hammams kept special blends for nighttime visitors. A surviving recipe from 14th century Shiraz lists chamomile, dried rose petals, and powdered almond shells. Mixed with hot water, it created a milky bath to soak hands and feet while reclining. Some accounts mention attendants adding this infusion to final rinse waters, the floral scent clinging to skin and hair long after leaving, a portable piece of tranquility. The current attendant prepares a smaller version now, crushing dried herbs between two stones before sprinkling them into a basin. Wisdom flowed differently in night hammams. Without daytime crowds, conversations drifted toward philosophy instead of gossip. Half-heard talks between steam sessions became the stuff of legend. Mathematicians working through proofs with wet fingers on hot tiles, poets debating stanza structures while wrapped in cooling linens. One 10th century visitor wrote of overhearing, "The washer of corpses speak truth more clearly than any scholar during a midnight soak." The anonymity of darkness allowed such unexpected exchanges. The bather turns onto his side, his cheek pressed against warmed marble. Through half-closed eyes, he watches steam rise in thin curls from the central heating platform. The moisture catches stray beams of moonlight, creating transient glowing shapes that writhe and vanish. Some resemble hands unfolding, others like miniature storms. He recalls childhood stories about these formations being visible breaths of resting jinn, guardians who took the night shift in bathhouses after humans left. In the furthest alcove, an attendant folds the last towel with practiced flicks of his wrists. His motions smooth wrinkles from thick cotton squares, stacking them neatly beside clay cups of drinking water. This ritual concludes his nightly duties, checking furnace levels, ensuring quiet patrons remain comfortable, resetting the space for tomorrow's chaos. He hums softly while working, a melody passed down from generations of hammam workers. A distant water droplet hits the drain with a metallic ping. The sound echoes slightly in the tile chamber, marking time between the bathers' slowing breaths. Elsewhere in the complex, overflow channels gurgle as they release excess water underground. These sounds build a rhythm that lulls as effectively as any lullaby, the hammam's hidden hydraulics performing their endless cycle. The attendant approaches the sleeping bather with quiet steps. He drapes a light linen sheet over the man's shoulders, tucking it loosely around his form. Nighttime protocol allows sleep here within reason. The heat ensures no one catches chill, and waking hours are respected. Checking the water clock in the corner, he notes 2 hours remain until dawn prayers. Plenty of time for this patron to float between steam and dreams. One by one, the attendant extinguishes oil lamps along the walls. Their wicks hiss softly as they're pinched. each extinguished flame tightening the hammam's embrace of darkness. Moonlight strengthens as artificial light fades, painting silver outlines around domes and archways. The star-shaped vents now cast perfect geometric shadows on the floor, a celestial echo of their daytime function to regulate heat and light. The attendant pauses at the doorway, looking back at the few remaining sleepers. Steam still rises gently from the central platform, catching what moonlight it can before dissipating into darkness. He takes a deep breath of the herb-scented air before pulling the heavy wooden door shut behind him. The latch clicks softly, leaving the hammam to its nighttime rhythms. The slow breathing of resting bodies, the patient stone releasing its stored warmth, the occasional droplet making its way down ancient drainage channels towards some underground river, carrying traces of olive oil and lavender into the earth. The library, after midnight, holds a different kind of silence. Not the forced hush of daytime scholars keeping respectful quiet, but the natural stillness of minds absorbed in thought. A single parchment codex lies open on its wooden stand, lamplight turning its elaborate borders golden. The reader leans close, tracing lines of text with a fingertip that leaves no mark. His shadow stretches across the shelves behind him, mingling with the shapes of rolled scrolls and bound manuscripts. Night study had practical advantages in Persia's warmer months. Daytime heat made thick books uncomfortable to handle, their pages sticking to damp palms. After sunset, vellum and paper cooled enough to turn easily. Inks stopped smearing, and scholars could work uninterrupted by visitors. Libraries kept special nighttime collections, texts considered too fragile or valuable for daytime traffic. The current reader examines one such volume, a 9th century translation of Indian astronomical theories with marginal notes in 3 different hands. Every library developed protocols for nocturnal scholars. Some requested materials in advance, their list delivered to librarians before evening prayers. Others brought their own lamps and oil to avoid disturbing the staff. Today, the etiquette scroll hanging by the entrance reminds visitors to wrap coughing fits in their sleeves and refrain from humming. The rules are worn smooth in certain spots where generations of fingers have touched them while entering. The page makes a soft crinkling sound as the scholar turns it. In daytime, this noise would vanish beneath coughs and chair scrapes. Now it seems amplified, bouncing off clay plaster walls absorbent enough to muffle daytime echoes, but somehow attuned to nighttime frequencies. The reader pauses mid-sentence, blinking slowly. His eyes feel gritty, but the text has just reached a crucial proof about Venus's orbit. He rubs his temples and continues, determined to reach the section's end before resting. Persian educators understood what modern science would later confirm, that some insights come easiest when the mind hovers between sleep and wakefulness. Students were encouraged to review difficult material before dozing off, letting dreams untangle what daylight couldn't. The scholar before you employs this method instinctively. He reads a passage 3 times without comprehension, then leans back against a cushion embroidered with geometries. His eyelids droop for precisely 7 breaths before snapping open with sudden understanding. Each reading niche holds its own comforts for such moments of productive drowsiness. Plush bolsters line the curved walls where scholars can recline without hurting their backs. Small wooden stands keep books elevated at comfortable angles. The current niche includes a wax tablet and stylus for quick notes, its surface bearing half-erased diagrams of celestial spheres. The librarian changed the wool pillow stuffing last week. The new batch smells faintly of lavender from the market. Some of history's breakthroughs emerged from these liminal states. A famous treatise on optics was reportedly revised after its author dreamed of light bending through water. Mathematical proofs came to scholars while they napped between calculations, their minds continuing the work subconsciously. The astronomer Al-Tusi described waking with solutions, written in the air before me, his hand reaching automatically for ink. Tonight's scholar experiences no such epiphany, but his grasp of the Indian theories grows steadily firmer with each cycle of reading and resting. Footsteps whisper in the corridor outside. The night librarian makes her rounds, checking lamps and inks. She peers into each niche with practiced discretion, enough to confirm well-being without disturbing concentration. Seeing the scholar half awake over his codex, she adjusts his lamp wick to reduce eye strain. The flame burns cleaner afterward, casting fewer shadows across the intricate diagrams. Nearby niches show signs of earlier visitors. One holds a discarded quill with ink dried thick around its nib. Another has stacked folios placed just so, marking parallel text for comparison. The main aisle displays imprints in its rug, where someone paced while memorizing, their path wearing the pattern slightly lighter in one oval stretch. The scholar's candle burns lower now, wax pooling where the holder's intricate designs catch drips. He blinks hard at the page, recognizing his attention waning. Carefully, he inserts a silk marker between the folios before closing the codex. His fingers linger on the cover's tooled leather, tracing constellations stamped there centuries ago by a bookbinder who likely never knew their meaning. Library nights had their own celestial rhythm. Certain texts always circulated at specific hours, medical volumes after midnight when pain kept physicians awake, love poetry nearer dawn when dreams colored memories. The scholar returns his book to the night attendant's desk, noting the small stack already waiting there. The librarian extinguishes his lamp with a practiced pinch of her fingers. Smoke curls upward in the sudden dimness, carrying the scent of burning cotton and sesame oil. The scholar walks toward the courtyard door, his footsteps slowing as he passes shelves loaded with other worlds waiting to be explored. His hand pushes the heavy door open, letting cool night air rush in to meet the warmth of knowledge kept alive through the hours when most of the world slept. The baker's hands move through the dough with practiced rhythm, fingers pressing and folding in a motion unchanged for centuries. His clay oven glows orange in the pre-dawn darkness, its heat warming the small shop enough to make his forehead gleam with sweat despite the cool night air. Flour dust hangs in the lamplight like tiny stars, settling on his forearms and the wooden table scored with generations of knife marks. This quiet work fuels the waking city. While others sleep, he prepares the bread that will greet them at sunrise. Night baking made practical sense in Persia's climate. The cooler hours kept dough from rising too quickly, allowing complex flavors to develop. Bakers timed their work to celestial cues, starting when the moon reached its zenith. shaping loaves as certain constellations appeared. Some kept star charts alongside recipe books, noting how dough reacted differently under various lunar phases. The baker before you checks the window where Venus shines brightly, his internal clock synced to its position. The scent of yeast fills the small space, mixing with the earthy aroma of sourdough starter kept alive for decades. Each baker's starter developed unique characteristics based on local wild yeasts. Some became neighborhood legends. The Isfahan starter said to date back to Safavid times, the Shiraz culture rumored to make bread stay fresh for weeks. Tonight's batch uses a milder strain, its bubbles popping softly as it ferments in a clay jar near the oven. Contrast define the baker's night. His wakefulness enables others' rest. His solitude creates communal nourishment. While shaping rounds of Barbary bread, he imagines the hands that will tear it apart hours later. Merchants breaking fast before market. Children receiving warm pieces with honey. Laborers wrapping loaves in cloth for midday meals. The dough makes a soft thump as he tosses it onto the peel, its surface dimpling slightly before smoothing out. Different breads mark different hours. Flatbreads bake first, quick to make, best eaten fresh. Then come the thicker sangak loaves baked over hot stones, their dotted surfaces perfect for scooping stews. Just before dawn, he'll prepare the delicate shirmul, brushing the saffron-infused milk glaze that gives it a golden shine. The sequence follows an ancient rhythm designed to have every variety reach perfection as its buyers awaken. His tools tell stories of adaptation. The long wooden peel used to retrieve bread shows char marks from centuries of use. The stone roller for flattening dough bears grooves where bakers tested its temperature with wet fingers. Even the simple clay oven evolved over generations, its dome shape perfected to circulate heat evenly, its mouth angled to catch morning's first light as a natural timer. Night bakers developed tricks to stay alert. Some chewed fennel seeds to keep their breath fresh and eyes bright. Others placed damp cloths on their necks when drowsiness threatened. This baker hums old milling songs under his breath, the rhythms matching his kneading motions. The melodies were originally sung to coordinate grain grinders, but now serve as private company during solitary work. The first loaves emerge golden and steaming, their crusts crackling as they cool. He transfers them to woven baskets lined with linen. The fabric dampens slightly to keep the bread soft. Through the high window, stars begin fading as dawn approaches. The baker wipes flour from his arms and prepares the next batch, knowing city streets will soon fill with customers drawn by the irresistible scent of fresh bread. Bakers understood their role in the community's dreams. Children fell asleep, anticipating morning treats. Workers dreamed of meals that would fuel their labors, the ill-envisioned bread's comfort. Some bakers added secret ingredients, a pinch of nigella seeds for luck, a dab of date syrup for sweetness in hard times. Records exist of bakers paid extra to make special loaves for pregnant women or grieving families, their bread carrying unspoken support. The oven's heat lessens as the night progresses, its stones holding warmth like memory. The baker checks his remaining dough, judging its readiness by how springs back under his finger. Outside, a night watchman pauses to inhale the fragrant air, his lantern casting long shadows across the shop's entrance. They exchange silent nods, two nighttime workers recognizing each other's vigil. As the eastern sky lightens, the baker prepares his final creations. These are the delicate pastries, layered with pistachios, drizzled with rosewater syrup, or stuffed with spice meats. Their sweetness will balance the hearty breads, offering morning choices to suit every taste. He works quickly now, knowing the first customers will arrive soon, their sleep-fogged minds sharpened by the first bite of warm, fresh bread. The shop's cat stretches near the cooling racks, drawn by the warmth and occasional fallen crumbs. Its presence reminds the baker to set aside a small piece of dough. Later, he'll bake it into a special treat for his silent companion. This small ritual marks the shift from night's solitary work to day's bustling trade. Dawn light touches the highest shelves where specialty flours are stored. Barley from the mountains, rye from northern provinces. The baker takes a moment to wipe his tools clean, the water turning milky with dissolved flour. His back aches from hours of bending, but the satisfaction of perfect loaves eases the discomfort. Outside, the first bird calls, announce morning's arrival as clearly as any clock. The bell above the door jingles as the baker's assistant arrives, rubbing sleep from his eyes. They exchange few words. The night's work speaks for itself in rows of perfect loaves, in the lingering warmth of the oven, in the yeasty air that will soon draw neighbours from their beds. The baker washes his hands in the corner basin, watching flour swirl down the drain like miniature clouds dispersing at sunrise. He pauses at the doorway before leaving, watching the assistant arrange baskets for the morning rush. The first customer approaches, a servant sent to fetch breakfast for her household. As she breathes in the shop's comforting aromas, the baker smiles to himself. His night's labour has become someone else's morning comfort. The circle complete once more. The scent of sesame seeds toasting on fresh bread follows him into the street, mingling with the sounds of a city waking. The old watchman's footsteps echo softly down the empty street. His leather sandals slap against cobblestones worn smooth by generations of nightly patrols. The lantern in his left hand swings gently, casting long shadows that leap across plaster walls before retreating again. Each flicker of light reveals brief glimpses. A cat darting between jars, a child's forgotten doll in a doorway, the glint of mica in stone. Night watchmen were philosophers in their own way. They saw cities stripped to their essentials, no markets, no crowds, just the bones of daily life showing through. This one knows which house has a newborn by the candle left burning in the window. He recognizes the scribe who works late by the rhythmic scratching of his pen. The guard hums a tavern song from his youth, changing keys when he passes the weaver's house, where a sick child finally settled to sleep. His route hasn't changed in 20 years. Down the spice seller's lane, past the communal oven now cold and dark, around the public baths with their dripping faucets. Each shop shutter he tests with a gentle push, memorizing which ones need repair by the way they rattle. The night air carries scents differently. Tonight, it's damp wool from Fuller's yard mixed with yesterday's cumin, and the first whiff of baking bread from the early risers. Watchmen developed tricks for staying alert without disturbing the peace. Some carried pebbles to count patrols, dropping one at each corner until their pouch emptied. Others tied knots in ropes to mark the hours. This one listens for patterns, the way dogs bark in sequence across districts, how night birds call when certain stars appear. His thick wool cloak smells of wood smoke and the mint leaves he keeps in his pocket to stay awake. They learned neighborhoods by their dreams. The potter's daughter talks in her sleep, her murmurs floating through an open window. The elderly scholar downstairs grinds his teeth while dreaming of arguments lost decades ago. Sometimes the watchman pauses to adjust a blown-out nightlight or pull a blanket over a sleeping beggar in a doorway. These small acts string together like beads on his nightly rounds. Children loved the watchmen most. They knew them as gentle figures who sang lullabies when nightmares struck. Simple tunes with nonsense words about drowsy camels or stars turning into sugar crystals. The guard hums one now as he passes the schoolmaster's house. A melody about sand dunes whispering bedtime stories. He helped invent these songs with other guards over countless night shifts, trading verses like merchants trade spices. Night revealed truths daylight hid. The proud merchant who secretly fed alley cats behind his shop. The stern matron who left honey cakes on her sill for night workers. Watchmen carried these secrets as lightly as their lanterns, knowing peace depended on discretion. When the tanner's son sleepwalked last winter, it was this guard who guided him safely home without telling the family, sparing the boy's pride. The oldest guards claimed cities breathed at night. They pointed to how shutters creaked just before dawn, how fountain water sounded louder in the small hours. This watchman feels it sometimes, the way cobblestones cool underfoot, as if exhaling stored heat, how certain alleys hum with inexplicable warmth. He pauses by the dry fountain where bats dart between stone carvings, their wings making soft parchment sounds. His lantern flame shrinks as the oil runs low. Dawn can't be far off. The eastern sky hints at blue behind indigo. He checks the baker's door one last time, ensuring the night lock released properly. Inside, the first batch of bread crackles in the oven, filling the street with a scent that makes his stomach growl. The night's last stillness settles around him like fine dust. Morning will erase his work as thoroughly as sunlight erases shadows. No one will recall which shutters he secured, which restless children he soothed with non's rhymes. But the watchman smiles as he turns toward the guardhouse, his shoulders loosening after hours of upright vigilance. The city dreams on undisturbed, its sleep unbroken, its secrets kept, its peace measured one careful step at a time, down quiet streets, until the first birds begin to sing. The lamp's final flicker catches the edge of a rooftop, just as true light appears. One moment his lantern glow exists. The next, it merges seamlessly with dawn's advance. He blows out the wick with a practiced puff, the smoke curling briefly before dispersing. Somewhere ahead, a rooster crows uncertainly, then with more conviction. The watchman pats his mint leaves absently as morning sounds replace nocturnal ones. The creak of a well pulley, the slap of dough being kneaded, a mother calling sleepily for her child. His night's work folds into the city's waking like a dropped stitch rejoining woven cloth. No fanfare marks the transition, just the quiet satisfaction of duty performed well while the world slept around him. The guardhouse door opens before he reaches it. His replacement stands stretching in the doorway, face puffy with sleep. They exchange nods rather than words, one man's rest beginning where the other's ended. As he steps inside to file his uneventful report, the arriving guard picks up the same familiar route, his own lantern swinging into motion. the city continues its endless rotation between vigilance and repose, guarded by those who understand darkness need not be feared. Only watch tenderly until light returns. The loom creaks softly with each pass of the shuttle, its rhythm steady as a heartbeat. Moonlight filters through the workshop's high windows, turning silk threads into silver strands. The weaver's hands move without hesitation, left hand lifting warp threads, right hand passing the shuttle through, feet working the pedals that raise and lower the harness. This dance continues hour after hour, the tapestry growing slowly like a plant reaching toward sunlight. Night weaving had practical advantages in Persia's climate. Daytime heat made threads brittle and hands sweaty. Cooler night air kept fibers supple, allowing for tighter, more even work. Many weavers reserved their most intricate patterns for these quiet hours. Complicated floral motifs that required absolute concentration, sacred geometries that couldn't risk daytime interruptions. The current project shows a garden scene with birds hidden among vines, each feather requiring 12 passes of differently colored threads. The repetitive motions induce a trance-like state. The weaver's breathing syncs with the loom's movements. Inhale as the harness lifts. Exhale while beating the weft into place. This rhythm continues until conscious thought fades, leaving only muscle memory and the emerging pattern. Some artisans claimed their best work came during these automatic stretches, when their hands seemed guided by something beyond skill. The shuttle clicks against the reed, a soft metallic sound marking each completed row. Outside, crickets chirp in counterpoint to the loom's creaking. Occasionally, a night bird calls, its voice weaving into the tapestry of sounds. The weaver pauses to stretch stiff shoulders, listening to these nocturnal companions. Some workshops kept small clay whistles shaped like birds. Weavers would blow them to answer real birds outside, creating brief conversations across species. The current artisan prefers silence, letting nature's sounds blend with the loom's music. Unfinished tapestries absorbed more than threads at night. Weavers often murmured prayers or poetry as they worked, believing the words entwined with the fibers. Some left empty borders to catch dreams before dawn. These spaces would later be filled with patterns inspired by nighttime visions. The current piece has one such margin along its top edge, slightly frayed where the weaver's fingers brush it, while contemplating next steps. The loom itself tells stories of generations past. Its wooden frame bears smoothed patches where countless hands have gripped. The reed's teeth show wear from years of threads passing through. Even the simple shuttle has grooves worn by thumbnails, some shallow, some deep, recording the pressure of different artisans. Tonight's weaver runs a finger along these marks absently, feeling connection to predecessors who worked the same patterns under the same moon. Thread selection happens by lamplight. The weaver chooses hues that will transform in daylight, indigo that reveals hidden purples, saffron yellow that glows like dawn. She tests combinations by holding strands together near the flame, watching how colors interact in flickering light. Some shades get rejected immediately. A green too bright for the composition's balance. A red that overwhelms the delicate vines. The chosen threads wait in neat rows on the bench beside her, each coiled like a sleeping serpent. Persian weaving manuals advised nighttime work for spiritual designs. Complex arabesques representing the infinite were said to come easier when the mind wasn't distracted by worldly concerns. One 13th century text recommended weaving sacred names during the small hours when angels lean closest to earth. The weaver before you isn't creating religious art, but the principle holds. Her birds seem more alive, their wings almost quivering with implied motion. The physical toll of night work reveals itself gradually. Fingers stiffen despite the room's warmth. Shoulders tighten until each harness lift requires conscious effort. The weaver massages her hands periodically, pressing thumbs into palms to ease the ache. A clay cup of mint tea sits cooling on the floor, its steam long gone. The leaves settled at the bottom, forming strange shapes she occasionally studies for inspiration. Nearby, half-finished pieces rest on shelves. Some await their owner's return. A noblewoman's belt left half-woven when she travelled east. A merchant's wall hanging paused when caravan season began. Others simply need time between stages. Dyes setting, designs percolating in the weaver's mind. Moonlight softens their colours into monochrome, making flaws and perfections equally beautiful. The current tapestry's border nears completion. The weaver slows her pace, savouring these final rows. Each knot gets special attention, each tassel carefully twisted. Outside, the cricket chorus diminishes as dawn approaches. Somewhere beyond the courtyard wall, a baker's oven door creaks open. The first human sound in hours besides the loom's steady music. As the last thread gets secured, birds begin their morning songs. The weaver stretches stiffly, rolling her neck until it pops. She examines the finished section critically, noting where tension could improve next time. Sunlight touches the highest window, turning her silver threads back to coloured ones, emerald, sapphire, topaz, as if daylight reminds them to resume their daytime roles. She covers the loom with a thin cloth to protect it from dust. The tapestry in progress gets rolled carefully in linen, its hidden bird safe until night returns. Stepping into the courtyard, she blinks at the sudden brightness. A cat stretches near the herb garden, its tail flicking in greeting. The weaver smiles tiredly, knowing she'll dream of patterns tonight. Not just those she created, but ones that will emerge when her hands meet the threads again tomorrow in the quiet, dark hours when creativity flows easiest. The workshop door creaks shut behind her, its familiar sound marking another night's work complete. Inside, the loom waits patiently, its pedals still warm from use, its shuttle resting where she left it, poised for the next dance of threads when moonlight returns to guide them. The first light touches the horizon, and Ancient Persia's nighttime guardians step back. The astronomer packs his brass instruments, the baker wipes flour from his hands, the poet's pen rests beside drying ink. These quiet hours, between stars, between breaths, held more than darkness. They cradled wisdom in garden shadows, peace in hammam steam, discoveries in observatory silence. Tonight, their legacy lingers in the spaces between your own waking and dreaming. Let the rhythm of water clocks and loom shuttles slow your thoughts. May these whispers from moonlit gardens and caravanserais guide you into rest as deep as Persian night. Sleep well.